a higher level. It will start by a sentence and what goes into the sentence and how do you teach the computer to produce a sentence. Okay. Here we go one level further down. We say, okay, there are stems in the mental lexicon, and the mental lexicon also knows about rules. So rule number 1 is a word form is a stem. So go and look for a stem. So the assumption is we have a stem, and we also have inflectional suffixes that may or may not go, they're optional. So the brackets mean that it's optional. So an inflectional suffix may go or not go onto a stem and produce a word form. Rule number 2, a stem could be a root that could be modified by either a prefix or a suffix or both. Or it could be just a stem. So there are 2 options to the rule, so it's flexible in this way. And then we start to be specific. So we have a category of inflectional suffix and what instantiates it in English. So like S, Z for the plural, E, D, and some ing. Then we have derivational suffixes. Or there should be affixes here, sorry. There should be an affix because we have prefixes and we have suffixes and we have some instantiations of roots. So we have a mini mental lexicon here with a mini grammar. And we're going to use this material to derive forms. So like, imagine that you're writing a little program and you're instructing a machine how to produce understandable forms in English. Because this is what the model is about. So we take root number 1 and we go and find the root. That's dense. Then we want this to be inflected, and via rule number 2 we go and take a suffix and we produce the form dense. Okay, so 1 is to find the root, the other is to do things to the root. And again, we go find the root, and we specify by which rules we find it, and then we apply derivations, so we get an adjective, and we can apply even more derivations and get another adjective. So we tell the computer go locate the root, and then go locate affixes that can be combined with it and produce the word form readable, and apply a negative suffix to produce its opposite. And the idea is that as humans, and we model our human capacity, that in our lexicon we have these morphemes that specify for noun class categories, and then we have affixes. They're also specified to what kind of category they apply to, and they have a representation. They have a phonological representation. So the form dense can be either a noun or a verb. If it's a verb, it can go the affix, the suffix D is applying to it to produce a past. When it's a noun, there is a nominal affix that produces an agent out of it, and there is a suffix that produces its plural, and there is also, if it's a verb, there is the S that produces its present. Okay, so these kinds of things. So what is in the mental lexicon, according to this model, they are morphemes, lexical morphemes, grammatical morphemes, and rules that put them together to produce forms. But we produce forms as we go, and when we're kids, we learn all these rules. We deduce them from the speech around us. Okay. Now, I mean, this is good, and it's abstract, but it works okay with languages with clear morphology, and it works well with English, and you know, in the 70s, this is all that mattered. So it's fine. Now, if we come to polysynthetic languages, and that's Navajo. Navajo is, or once was, a major language of the American Southwest. It's an Athabascan language that is spoken in the Four Corner area of Utah, Colorado, Arizona. Their reservation is now here on this dot. So Navajo is and this is what, if you come to Native American languages, this is the kind of things that you will face. And I know it's horrible. When I started with them, I thought they'll never understand any of this, because this is called a template. Now, you see a lot of numbers. The Roman figures indicate the positions in the template. And all this stuff can go on a verb form. Okay. So you have the stem. We know what a stem is. But a Navajo verb form can carry information about what is affected by the stem, that's the theme. How many times that action is being done. So it's a prefix for the iterative. If that action is done in one place and in several other places, so that's the distributive. If that action is done onto something directly, that's the direct object. If that stem is intransitive, like sleep, the subject will be indicated by a suffix that follows after these affixes, like obviously the direct object will be there. But then we'll have another theme, and we'll have more general aspect, and then the transitive subject, a verb like kill. And then a classifier that indicates whether this stem is applied to people, to animate objects, or not animate objects, that kind of thing. So there is a lot of information that has to go on a verb form, and this is this is the kind of thing that makes me question models like this. So I'll show you a Navajo form. Luckily, they don't always put all this stuff on a verb stem, but the trouble is that these things are not agglutinated like Turkish, but when these affixes go onto the stem, there are a great amount of morphological merging and various kinds of simulations between morphemes that go on, so it's not always very clear how to tell them apart. And you'll learn after a while, but I'll show you, in the form that I'm showing down here. This is in the traditional orthography, and then you chunk it according to the grammar. Modern grammars of Navajo help you with that. So you don't have to do the whole morphological analysis all the way yourself, but I have the theme, and here I have a distributive suffix that here see in the form whatever. The A is influenced by the following vowel, and the realization of this suffix, which will be the direct object, is also different. So then you have the aspect, and then the subject, the classifier, and finally the stem. Okay. So your orthography and morphological analysis, what these things are, morphonemic translation, morphemic translation, and finally what it means. And it's a big group, because this is what the classifier also can give you. If it's a human, big group, a small group. So there is several of us, we're more than 3, and we are once again carrying him along. This is what this means. Now, in a morpheme-based model, this means that a knowledgeable person carries this thing in their head, and they put them together online, and they do this kind of analysis all the time. And when people started to look at Navajo, the first thing was like, oh, I know why this language is dying, which is of course baloney, and it has nothing to do with morphological structure. There's a lot of social reasons, but languages, I mean, highly polysynthetic languages don't bear well in a morpheme-based model. It is simply highly implausible that this kind of an operation that we segmented this for the purposes of description. And that's, I mean, it's a completely different thing to describe one thing so that you make it clear to yourself, to outsiders. It's one thing, but how it is processed and how it is produced in actual language use is a completely different thing. Ideally, we want our descriptions to be very close to the psychological reality of how we speak and how we produce things. But in all honesty, I think it's better not to pretend that we are psychologically close to what's going on. Because this is okay to explain how Navajo word forms are to be analyzed. But it's not okay to tell me what a Navajo person does when they speak. So this is where the morpheme-based model really flaws. Because it's, I mean, we don't have to, we can here review. Again, I can say like, I mean, a Turkish paradigm has to be derived over and over and over again, right? There is a lot of agglutination going on, so the idea would be, okay, Turkish speakers go with all these morphemes and then combine them on the fly at any point in time. Which is a lot of processing going on, so a Turkish speaker must be a lot more tired than the French speaker, because the French speaker has a lot of more flexion and they remember forms. So, but polysynthetic languages are really the extreme example of what's going on and why the morpheme-based model is not so good. So what is good for is that you don't make the lexicon very big. Okay, you have a certain amount of lexical morphemes and a definitely like a limited amount of grammatical morphemes, and you have rules, and this is what you're supposed to have. Your description is concise, so that's good. They're about, but what speaks against it is what I said, that it presupposes segmentation when there is no segmentation. So it will segment words like topic, image, and foreign. It doesn't handle polysynthetic languages at all. It doesn't say anything about what is productive, what is not productive. You just have these rules and you apply it. It presupposes segmentation on all levels. So there is no mention of what do you do with ablaut, what do you do with stem change. Do you store like a go, or do you store a length? It's not clear in a morpheme-based lexicon. So I mean, it's the same with ablaut words. It does, like, what is the default? I've seen words, in Russian, they're verbs that are derived by preposition to do perfective and imperfective aspect. And some verbs don't do that. They're just opposites in terms of aspect. So here I've given the verb to take. So the perfective form is взять, whereas the imperfective is брать. So I've seen, Vera has to go, so I don't want to just say constantly forget to switch off my Skype, which is the bugger. Now we go back. So I've seen works that's where you postulate that the underlying form between zyak and drak is vz. So a Russian speaker is supposed to go with a form vz and derive the perfective from z and replace z by vr when they want to use the imperfective, which makes, this is an extreme application of a morpheme-based model, and this is what contributes to it being somewhat improbable. And this is why people have started to look at alternative ways to model, describe the mental lexicon in formal ways in a different way.